Don't forget, we've got live coverage of the NBA Finals starting Thursday right here. NBA Countdown will start at 8 o'clock, and I think tip-off, and I know you'll love this, Sam, tip-off will be at 9 p.m. I think the rest of the way out.
Really?
9 p.m. the rest of the way out.
They should be able to flex that to some extent. Having to stay up, like this past Sunday, the tip was 8:30 on a Sunday night. Like, no, give me something to do Sunday afternoon. Like, throw me a 3 o'clock tip.
No, I think they're all 9
Sick
o'clock.
of it.
You don't remember. You're too young. You used to have like Memorial Day weekend. You would have like games 3 and 4 like Saturday, Sunday. Remember
Really? Just back to back?
Yeah, you'd have like Detroit, Chicago play at 3:30 like on Saturday and Sunday.
Because you had to squeeze them in on the weekend, because there wasn't anybody that was going to do it on a weekday night.
Right, you didn't have the TNTs, TBSs of the world.
So they'd have great double headers.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and it would be in the afternoons, but they would play back to back in a playoff.
Man, well, here we are, exactly where we thought we would be. Golden State in Cleveland. In 4 or 5, where do you give Cleveland
6?
Ooh, Cleveland will pull
Because LeBron will win one game by himself, and then Golden State will just absolutely have zero interest and play like the knuckleheads they do once a series and lose one game like that. So I think it goes 6.
I'm saying 5, and I think that's generous. I mean, look, LeBron is doing LeBron things, and it's amazing that at age 33 he can still just say, okay, I'll just do it all myself if I have to. And I think you're right. He's going to have one of those games. But the Warriors have been so bad, bad for the last month. I don't see how they keep that up. And I mean, maybe they will, and maybe LeBron gets lucky, and it'll be the greatest upset in the history of sports if LeBron somehow wins this championship. But I've seen. I'm not trying to hate on LeBron, but people have been giving LeBron a lot of credit for getting this far with this Cavaliers team.
They beat nobody.
They beat nobody. That Celtics team is really good, and they're up and coming, but they're still really young and have a lot to figure out.
Their
They beat
two
nobody.
best players weren't on the team.
Right.
If you put one of those guys in, it doesn't matter. One of those guys, they beat Cleveland. So he's played great, but he didn't go through Patrick Ewing and all these phenomenal teams to get to the finals. He beat nobody. Somebody pointed out the number of like Hall of Fame players that he's played against in the East has been nobody. I mean, he didn't play against a Hall of Famer
this series.
I mean, you may think Tatum could make it, but that's it. He hadn't played a single Hall of Famer in these playoffs.
I also read a stat that LeBron James has played with more All-Star players than Michael Jordan
Oh, it
has
was a
played.
big number difference.
And I know, listen, the folks that are LeBron lovers, it's fine. We've talked about it. We had a discussion recently about how a guy older than me came up to me and told me that it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the greatest player he'd ever seen. And I'm never going to change your mind that LeBron James is the greatest player. But let me just tell you, you're always wondering what would at least get me to entertain the idea that he was close to the level of Michael Jordan, which he is not. If he beats this Golden State Warriors team, I will tell you, that would absolutely open up, because it would be some sort of monstrous thing. It would be him becoming this triple-double machine and scoring like 40, 50, 60 points a game. That's the kind of effort it would take from an individual standpoint. And then I would say, you know what? That guy just may be the greatest basketball player I have ever seen. But that's just not going to happen.
No, and we've talked about this. I'm not going to let him off the hook for the Dallas series when they lost and he choked his brains out. I'm not going to let him off the hook for the last way the Boston when he left Cleveland.
To Dirk. They lost to Dirk.
And
just let that soak in.
Yeah, and even the first one that they won, Dwayne Wade was a better player for those playoffs. So I think this is no slight. He's the second best player to ever play the game, but he ain't passing one.
Yes, and as I've said to me, there's nothing wrong with being number two.
Right, he's the number 2 of all time.
Well, speaking of number 1 or number 2, because as much as I'm going to watch...
I'm scared.
Right? Not going the direction you think it might be going.
Good.
I'm excited to watch this series just because it's the finals and whatever. Like, we'll have some crazy LeBron moments. There's going to be some drama, but the matchup I want to watch more than anything, because you've kind of mentioned this over the past week or two, Norwood, about Kevin Durant and how he sort of disappeared. The matchup I'm intrigued by is Steph Curry versus Kevin Durant, because I think we're going to start hitting a turning point as Golden State might be sort of thinking somewhere in the back of their minds, these other teams are getting closer to us sooner than maybe we thought they would. So the Warriors are going to have to adjust on the fly eventually. At some point, they're going to have to make a change. So I'm wondering who takes over this team. I think this is the finals to do it. Is it going to be Kevin Durant deferring to Curry or vice versa? And I think that's really going to set the tone going forward for this team because, man, I don't think Kevin Durant is above, similar to Kyrie Irving, wanting out of a situation because he doesn't feel like he's the guy anymore.
And just to keep going on your thought, who do you see retiring as a Golden State Warrior? Steph Curry or Durant?
Right, 100% Curry.
It's Curry.
Yeah.
It's Curry's team. It's Curry's city. I think you can convince Warrior fans if we could trade Durant and pick up. You're not going to pick up the same, but pick up good pieces. They're okay with it because this is not. I brought it up last week, and it's not Golden State basketball. It's not how Kerr wants to play. Kerr's starting to call him out a little bit, going, dude, you got to pass the ball. And Clay in that Game 6 showing, oh, yeah, this is how we used to play. And Curry, this is how we used to play. And we don't need another scorer. They got scoring. Yeah, so over-under, is he there in 2 years?
I'm going to say he's out in 2 years.
I think he is too.
You brought up Steph Curry, but then you mentioned Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is a guy who I want to say is a free agent this season. Am I right? Oh,
soon.
one more
Next
year. One more year. So similar to KD or similar to Curry, like who do you think has a better chance of retiring as a Golden State Warrior? Klay Thompson's always the secondary guy, but man, how many times in the playoffs with this
he's the
team,
clutch guy.
He's the guy that has guts, man. He's the one who shows up and is like, well, we've been dragging for a few games. I'm going to come out and go 8 for 12 from 3-point land and drop a 40 burger, and we're gonna be right back on track.
The thing though I think about Clay is he's a different dude, and I don't think he cares about whose team, this team. If anything, I could see him going, all right, I got what's he got, 2 rings already, probably 3. I wouldn't mind finishing my career at the Lakers. Mm-hmm. He's an LA guy. Dad played there. Dad's like the color guy on the radio, or I don't know. He works for.
Yes.
But I could easily see Clay going, I'm out, and go surf. I mean, he's just a different dude. And I love Clay. I love Klay Thompson.
Is he a stoner?
Oh, absolutely.
Is Klay Thompson a stoner? He gives off that vibe, right?
Absolutely.
There's 2 things that we know about NBA players is that most of them smoke marijuana and most of them are taking PEDs from Germany.
Probably. Well, the funny thing about Clay...
Is that George Karl's claim anyway?
The funny thing about Clay was they did some press conference right when they signed Durant, and somebody was like, oh, what are you going to do about not getting less shots, whatever? And Clay's like, I ain't shooting less. He goes, I don't care who's on the team. He goes, I'm not shooting less. I love Clay.
So I'm going to take Warriors in 5 as well. And I'll go back and double down on the whole idea that I'm great. I love the NBA Finals. It's a little sad because if Sam and I talk about, if you ever get to hear our comment on baseball, our good friend baseball, the annoying neighbor that we like but sometimes gets on our nerves, but that's for another story. We're going to be stuck with that guy.
Baseball, yeah.
Because we're going to have nothing on for a while. The NFL won't start until September, and then college football doesn't start until September.
The draft is fun.
The draft is fun. Yeah, sure. It's not basketball, but yes. We'll pretend and act like, somebody did something great. But remember last year when I said, Jason Tatum, I'm so underwhelmed. I'm so like, wow, this was your big plan. We're going to trade down and take Jason Tatum. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Danny Ainge. I'm going to take a different approach this year and pretend like whatever anybody does, I don't know anything. I don't know any better.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as down. I think the NBA offseason, it's usually better than the regular season.
And
the NBA
it'll be
offseason.
good because LeBron.
It's a summer of LeBron, and Kevin Durant is actually legitimately a free agent
What
this
about
year.
Durant, LeBron, both to the Lakers?
Right. Paul George, Chris Paul, DeMarcus Cousins, Clint Capella, DeAndre Jordan, like the amount of big-time names that are coming up for free agency this year.
And they're smart enough to just do it right after the season ends. Like, I think you get like a couple of weeks, and you talk about and then all of a sudden it's on. And then the draft so we will have that, but it's not. Now, you were telling me to DeAndre Jordan in Dallas. Like, did you tell me this?
That is a legitimate thing that could happen.
Again?
Dallas
try to get
is
him again?
They're apparently interested in Jordan or Capella. Those are the two names that they're looking at.
Capella is a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they get the fifth pick.
Fifth, yeah.
Yeah, so they'll be a decent. I watched a mock draft, and they had was it Bamba from Texas? They had him
He's
going.
awesome.
Yeah, they had him going, and you start looking. You put him with Dennis Smith Jr., and that's a pretty good little building thing.
Yeah, I guess
Building block.
I guess why I'm most intrigued by this NBA offseason is because now that we've seen 4 years in a row Golden State versus Cleveland, we're not going to see that anymore. This is the end of that. This is the last, last showing of this rivalry.
You don't think LeBron goes back to Cleveland?
I think he might, but I don't know what they're going to get. I don't think they have the assets and the pieces to move and get a star unless they're willing to just cut bait on so many people that.
And nobody wants those guys. What trade bait do they have that you want?
Yeah, and
there's nobody on their team.
And I feel like a lot of these stars, the ones we're talking about LeBron possibly playing with, when we talk about, who is it, Paul George or Lonzo Ball and Julius Randle out in L.A. or whoever it is, these guys don't really want to go to LeBron's team. They want LeBron to come to their team.
You're exactly right. If you've seen it through the years, nobody wants to go to Cleveland.
Right.
I mean, you've had a chance to play in the finals, forever with LeBron, and he can't get anybody to come to Cleveland. It's easy to get him to go play South Beach in Miami, but I ain't going to Cleveland to play with you, dude. I don't need a ring that bad.
Well, we talked. It's
Cleveland.
They had a championship team. If you put Kyrie on that team, a healthy Kyrie, it's a completely different Cleveland team, but couldn't keep it together. Couldn't keep his team together. The team, and I know that they actually drafted Kyrie before he came back from Miami, but nonetheless, you had an all-star piece that you let go away.
And they all talk about LeBron, how he wears out the front office because he only signs one-year deals, so you can't ever really plan for the future. The free agents on your team can't make a decision because they don't know if he's staying or going. So you're always in this constant state of flux when you have LeBron James on your team. He wore out Miami, and that's kind of why Riley was like, yeah, see you later, dude. We'll be fine. And Cleveland is wearing him out again, and it's just hard because he won't commit. He's asking you as an organization to commit to him, and he won't commit to you. And if I'm a player beside him going, dude, okay, you want me to come sign a 3-year, 4-year deal? You sign yours first, and then I'll sign mine. But are you going to sign that 1-year crap and then may leave? I'm not signing. And I think that's hurt them the last 3-4 years.
And I'm going to swing this back around to Philadelphia because the Sixers are also one of these teams I'm really interested in.
Who are blowing up today.
Yeah, they've got they're going to bring their coach back, which was the news they were supposed to be celebrating today.
Right.
And,
celebrating is a stretch, but yes.
But you know what I mean.
Right.
At least announcing.
Yes, there you go.
But unfortunately, their general manager, Brian Colangelo, not to be confused with his father, apparently had some dummy, they call them burner, right? Burner Twitter accounts.
5 of them.
Oh, my gosh. So
talking junk about Sixers players.
Killing players, killing the coach, killing Hinkie.
Praising himself.
And talking about how good a job he was doing. I mean, we'll be on the air whenever. I don't think he has a job. I don't think he has a job by tomorrow morning. How can you?
Yeah.
I'm fine with letting him walk. I say bring back Sam Hinkie. I think
that's what would be funny.
Hinkie is working with an NFL team now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they did for the metrics and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, Hinkie's the one that put it all together.
It was just a little slow, and then the
Yeah.
NBA was like, that's the thing people forget. The
NBA
NBA
forced
essentially
them-
put Brian Colangelo
they
in that
forced
spot,
them
right?
to do it.
Yeah.
And here Philadelphia sits with, they're going to have that money freed up from J.J. Redick. Plus, they've already got a little bit of room anyway. They've got these great young players.
Mm-hmm.
They can bring someone in, and we, again, expect them to be super competitive in the Eastern Conference next year. What a great position they're in. Regardless of who gets that general manager position, he's going to be I mean, that's got to be a very desirable general manager's position to sit in, to come in there and knowing that, I mean, and there's some pressure, but if you can come in and bring in the right pieces, that's a team that could definitely find itself playing basketball this time of year next year.
Oh, there were PDF resumes being emailed first thing this morning by the truckload to Philly. I mean, going, just keep me in mind here, guys.
Yes, every young guy who's dreaming of that, and I think that may be where Philadelphia goes. Who knows? But getting to that point, Sam, who's the guy you like? Because it's fun to throw out the names as we've done, the Paul Georges, the LeBron Jameses. Would you rather see them go out and find these diamonds in the rough, a guy who maybe will take less money, but bring it a little bit more? Or do you legitimately feel like you need another superstar, another all-star caliber player?
Well, Philly's an interesting situation because you don't know if you have that in Markelle Fultz yet. And I think if Fultz becomes the player you drafted him to be, then you're obviously in a lot better of a situation. But to me, I don't want LeBron James. Some of that is just because of my own bias. But again, kind of like we were just talking about with Cleveland and other guys playing with him or not wanting to play with him, with just the young group that they have, I don't know if LeBron James is the right move. I would love to see Kawhi Leonard or Paul George find their way to Philadelphia. I don't think either one's going to happen.
See, I think they need a scoring guard because at the end of playoffs always come down to the end of the shot clock because everybody knows your offense. You can't get any, you got to have a guy get a play. The problem with giving Ben Simmons the ball, he can't shoot.
Right.
And so he's very limited as a end of shot clock offensive, spearhead in your team. They need somebody, and Fultz may be the guy that you can get it and say, okay, I need you to break the guy down and get a 15-footer, and Simmons can't do that. And so I think they need a score. They need, one of the Toronto guys, they need a scoring guard is what I think they're missing. And not a J.J. Redick where you have to run him off 20 picks. I mean, a guy that you can get the ball and he can break it down and score because Simmons can't. He just can't shoot well enough.
All right. The problem with that is that none of those guys are available this year. They're
Kemba.
Well, you'd have to trade for Kemba.
Right.
But that's why J.J. Redick kind of works. And we're talking about Klay Thompson. I think a guy like Klay Thompson might be okay. You want a little bit more of an ability to get to the basket because that's kind of what Philly's game's predicated on, and they already surround Simmons with the shooters like Bellinelli and Ilyasova and all those guys. Yeah. But I'm almost at the point with Philly where it's like, maybe not muck things up too much. Just let it develop.
And I think you're right. The best thing is let's see what Fultz is.
Mm-hmm. We got to go. We got less than a minute.
How bad is the NBA Finals when we talked about them for maybe 8 minutes and then we automatically started about the offseason?
Yeah, we just don't expect. I mean, we'll be here next week and maybe something will happen and we'll think, something like an injury or a suspension off of Golden State Warriors.
Right.
It's the only way I see it happening. All right, I'll give you Kyrie and Al Horford for Joel Embiid.
No.
Dang it.
You're not getting
I really
Embiid.
like that trade.
I wouldn't do it either.
I don't think I'll give you anything for Kyrie.
Nothing.
Mm-mm. Don't want him.
Don't want Kyrie.
Mm-mm.
All right.
I'm the one that's been sitting here saying for Boston to trade him away. Don't trade him to me. I would just try to trade him again.
I know. Well, we will talk to you next week and probably be crowning a champion.
Hey, I'm sure we will be.
We'll take a break and come back.